Hey everyone, really good evening to you, or whenever you've managed to catch up with this. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sean. I'm the leader of youth and students at SJSD Ashford, and you've joined us as part of our online content that helps people engage at home. This is targeted at youth and students, but really anyone is allowed available. I mean, everyone's available right now, aren't they? Anyone is allowed to come along and be a part of this. This is actually going to be our last WWW Worship Word and WhatsApp that takes place on a Sunday. We're going to be moving it to later on in the week to help us dive a bit deeper in than the normal service can. That will allow the services that happen on Sunday to deal with lots of people, and then we can go a bit deeper in WWW as we meet during the week. And then there'll be the engagement for you to join in on WhatsApp groups. And you won't have to watch it necessarily on a Sunday night when you might be out for a walk, or you might be seeing friends, or the weather might be nice. I'm hoping for more of that this week. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to start with some worship. We're going to close with some worship as well. We've got our students leading some worship tonight. And I'm going to give you a little thought about this week's theme, which is doubt, as we look at the story of Thomas together. So you might want to grab a Bible if you've got it. You might want to stick some headphones in. You might be watching this somewhere else. But we're going to start with some worship. Led by our good friend Matt Lee. So let's go. Or we'll wait. Yeah, we'll go.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah. Sing a little louder.
Right, well, welcome back where yet again I'm managing to have technical difficulties, which is always great fun. So, don't know why, wish I knew why. It would be a lot easier if everything always worked when you wanted it to. So give us just one moment. There we go. We're back for some reason. Don't know why that took and what it did, but there we go. Thank you to Matt for that piece of worship there. We're going to read the passage for tonight. Some of you might have already seen it as we looked at it at our morning youth and as well in the service that eventually happened this afternoon. But if you want to, turn to John chapter 20, verses 19 to 29. Now, for a bit of variation, hey Elliot, I'm going to read it from the Message version because we had it from the NIV at the service this morning. So if you want to open that up, I don't know why I opened this. This is an NIV. I've got it on the screen. I'll put it up on the screen as well so you can read along with me, and then I'll share a couple of thoughts on it. So let's get that up. So John chapter 20 verse 19 to 29. Later on that day, the disciples had gathered together, but, fearful of the Jews, had locked all the doors in the house. Jesus entered, stood among them, and said, "Peace to you." Then he showed them his hands and side. The disciples, seeing the master with their own eyes, were exuberant. That means excited. Jesus repeated his greeting, "Peace to you. Just as the Father sent me, I send you." Then he took a deep breath and breathed into them. "Receive the Holy Spirit," he said. "If you forgive someone's sins, they're gone for good. If you don't forgive sins, what are you going to do with them?" But Thomas, sometimes called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples told him, "We saw the Master." But he said, "Unless I see the nail holes in his hands, put my finger in the nail holes, and stick my hand in his side, I won't believe it." 8 days later, his disciples were again in the room. This time Thomas was with them. Jesus came through the locked doors, stood among them and said, "Peace to you." Then he focused his attention on Thomas. "Take your finger and examine my hands. Take your hand and stick it in my side. Don't be unbelieving, believe." Thomas said, "My Master, my God." Jesus said, "So, you believe because you've seen with your own eyes. Even better blessings are in store for those who believe without seeing." So, that is good news. I'm just checking my WhatsApp messages just to see if people are going, "Oh no, thanks," or things are breaking. So, just a couple of thoughts on doubt. Doubt's a big word, and I think right now lots of us doubt different things. Let's take, for example, our education and entire life journeys. If I think back to 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we were kind of looking at the prospect of lockdown, but maybe some of us were being hopeful that it wouldn't happen. I remember even then having the doubts of, well, what would church look like? What would my life look like? My home be like? And it was scary. I remember coming home on quite a few days and just wanting to cry because it was so uncertain. I doubted my own future, never mind before you even brought faith into it. I just doubted the logistics of life at a time when I should have been trusting a bit more perhaps. But what's interesting in this story is that Jesus takes someone like Thomas, who he didn't have the full picture. He'd been kind of missed out by his friends because he wasn't in that group when Jesus appeared to them all. And you can imagine the scene, can't you? When all your friends tell you something unbelievable and you go, "No, I won't deal with it." And I guess for some of us, we had the same reaction with all the stuff when coronavirus originally hit. I remember seeing the stuff in China back in January and going, "Oh, well, gosh, that's bad for them. It would be just like before." And then to be here where we are now, and Tuesday will be 4 weeks of lockdown. So why do we feel that way? The people who were in that room would have known something that Thomas didn't. They would have seen the proof, but Thomas didn't. So it's fine for me that he doubted it. It's logical. He would have had to have doubt because you wouldn't believe something so unbelievable. And again, that's the situation that we were all in. But doubt creeps into our lives in so many ways, and I think faith is one of the big ones. We can look around at times like this and seriously have questions about God, questions to God. Anger is a common feeling. Confusion is a common feeling. Just not knowing what to do in the situation. If I take you back, and I've told this to some people before, if I take you back to when I was at uni, when I was 19, so I just finished my first year of uni. I'd had a first year of uni where I wasn't particularly close to God anyway, but because I'd been brought up in a family of Christians and I'd always been taken to church, it kind of, I suppose I assumed I'd always have my faith and belief. Like I'd still go to church even though I hadn't been particularly close with God, or maybe I didn't even know what that looked like at that point. It was probably like it was surface level. It wasn't really deep within me. It was just something that I practiced on the outside. Although, come to think of it, first year of uni, I didn't practice that on the outside either. I don't think the way I was living and treating other people was particularly Christian either. So it wasn't a deep faith. But even when your faith is like that, you can still have doubts. Kind of, you have this little foundation in you when you go off to uni, when you start new things. But those doubts can happen whatever stage of life you're at, whatever situation you're in. I remember finishing the first year of uni. I'd had a couple of messy relationships, but I'd enjoyed my first year of uni, and I remember hitting the summer festivals. So every year, except not this year, there are lots of Christian summer festivals that take place, such as New Wine, Soul Survivor, and then there was like a young adults, like students version of Soul Survivor that used to happen the week after Soul Survivor happened, called Momentum. And a couple of friends of mine took me away to that. We went as a small group, a random group if I think back to it. But we went along to that, and I was really not in a good place with God. I know what had happened before is a grandparent had passed away, so like just before the summer. So I don't know. I was angry with God, or I didn't think there was a God. I certainly had huge doubts about the role that God was going to play in my life going forward. At this festival, I remember being in the first main kind of session that we had all together. The contents of the session, not particularly memorable. Nothing really to make notes about. And I don't think I did make any notes at that point. I wasn't that keen. But I remember closing the session and the speaker at the front, I think it was Pilarvachi. I think it was Mike Pilarvachi or Andy Croft. Said we were going to have a time of just waiting for God. And we did. And suddenly, I had this huge sense of God being with me. In a way I hadn't really felt it before. And that gave me the kickstart I needed to restore my relationship with God, or even build it up to something that it should be. Now we don't all get those kind of life-flashing, life-changing moments, but I suppose what I want to take away from it is that God sees you when you're having a rubbish time. God sees you when you're doubting, and often he comes to you. That's what we see in this story today with Thomas. Jesus came to Thomas. He didn't have to, but he did. He came to Thomas because he was doubting that there was hope. He came to Thomas because he was doubting that someone could live again. He came to Thomas at a time when he had no faith. He came to Thomas when he had no idea about his future. That's good news for us right now. If I take my faith and that huge amount of doubt and uncertainty and anger and all the emotions that surrounded that when I was 19, I made a decision to respond to God and to keep going with my faith. I think we should all give that decision a go. It is a messy time, and for many people, God might not be the first thing on their minds. But I want to challenge you to make some time. Make some time for God. Make some time to give him a chance to reconnect. So Saturday is the day where I try to switch off and do something new. I try to get out and about. I've never walked or run or cycled so much in my life than I am right now, because exercise is almost like something I feel I should do, but getting out and about. Use that time to reconnect. Whether it's listening to something, whether it's sticking on a Spotify playlist and just letting the background disappear, whether it's listening to a podcast, whether it's listening to the sound of birds singing. Allow some space for God to meet with you. I don't know what that looks like, and for loads of people it looks so differently. I had that moment when I was 19, and you know what? I've not had a moment again since. That doesn't matter. God interacts with us in a way that we're comfortable. We've just got to look for him. We've got to learn how to do that, and I'm sure we'll look at that at some point as well. But the other encouragement that Jesus ends this section with Thomas is that last verse. It says, Jesus said, so you believe because you've seen with your own eyes. That might be, I suppose, me. It might be loads of people who have had an encounter with God in that way. But he finishes with the words, even better blessings are in store for those who believe without seeing. God isn't some sort of picky, choosy, elitist God who only engages with the super spiritual and the super holy people. God finds Thomas. God finds the person who wouldn't believe. God found all his disciples, the ones that Jesus chose, who were so down and out, so useless to society, the people that other would look down on, would shut off, would, the modern day equivalent of blocked. Like, society blocked these people, and Jesus picked them up. When they'd been outcast by all their friends, possibly all their family as well, Jesus picked them up. And he says even better blessings are in store for those who believe without seeing. So maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't. Maybe you're in that place of, you know what, life's gone a little bit poo. And I doubt God exists. But what can I do? It's you making that choice to believe without seeing. Or believe if you have seen. But if we don't give God a chance, we might never know. So give God a chance. Maybe take a step to believe. That's what faith is. Faith is sometimes believing without seeing. And that's what Jesus calls us all to do. So let's just be still for a moment, shall we? And I know that there are those of you out there who are thinking life is really, really rubbish right now because you've lost family members, or friends who have lost family members. Maybe you're stuck away from the people who you'd like to be with. Maybe you're constantly worried because you've got a friend who works on the front line, or a family member. But God, we ask you now to come to us like you did to Thomas. And Lord, we ask for you to kind of reveal yourself in a new way to us. Whether it's a little thing we notice tomorrow, tonight. Maybe it's something you put into our heads when we wake up this morning. Maybe it's something we'll read or we'll see on our feeds. God, help us to reconnect with you like Thomas did. And start right now. To help us with this, I'm really glad we got a recording from the Elstubs of a song that Emily's been doing at St Aldate's in Oxford. It's a great song called Until You Do, so you probably won't know it, but the words are brilliant. So use this as a way of responding together. So I'll put this on for us, and then I'll close and we'll put some questions up and we'll do some groups.
Through every trial, through every fear, through every tear we can conceal, God, we look to you. And through every storm, through every pain, through every grief we can't explain, God, we look to you. You became a man of sorrows, that we might know joy. You have treasured every teardrop, said that you restore. You will not forget your people, you'll make all things new. Until you do, we choose to trust in you. You are our hope, you are our strength, you are the anchor in the depths. God, we look to you. And you will return, you will sustain, you will bring joy we can't contain. Come, Lord Jesus, come. You became a man of sorrows, that we might know joy. You have treasured every teardrop, said that you restore. You will not forget your people, you'll make all things new. Until you do, we choose to trust in you. Until you do, we choose to worship you. And you will make all things new. Until you do, choose to trust in you. You will make all things new. Until you do, choose to worship you. You will make all things new. Until you do, choose to trust in you. You will make all things new. Until you do, you became a man of sorrows, that we might know joy. You have treasured every teardrop, said that you restore. You will not forget your people, you'll make all things new. Until you do, we choose to trust in you. Until you do, we choose to worship you. We'll worship you. Until you do.
that's amazing. That was such a good song. So let's go off into our groups. We've lost the camera again. That's going to be the story of my life today. I put the questions up, and although they're the wrong questions, so let's not do that. I'm going to put the questions up in a moment while I stall for some time. Like I said, Worship Word and WhatsApp won't be around this week. It will be next week during the week. It will be uploaded. So keep an eye out there, and don't worry, we'll be sure to let you know. Right, we'll get some questions on the screen for you there. So if you're not part of a group, click on the link below and we'll get you connected in that. But thank you for joining us tonight. Stay in touch throughout the week. Yeah, we'll see you later. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, guys.